Welcome back out to the greenhouse. We're talking about some winter heating ideas and all of the heating we used last winter. So we got a lot of cool stuff today. And if you're new, before we get into everything, please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell so you know when we upload new videos and you can check them out right away. And we really appreciate all the new subscribers we've got recently. Thank you everybody for supporting us and finding the channel and dropping a like or a comment. We really appreciate all of the interaction we've had with the community, local or expanded. So I've been experimenting with my little methane capture system, and we're finally starting to add some inputs to that. And last winter we tried to harvest methane off of our John Payne compost heating system also, but we were not successful with that. We didn't really approach it the correct way. I tried the best I could with what I had and the time I had to do it before it got really cold. And methane is pretty well created between 90 and 105 or so degrees, so that is the highest methane production. It can be created in other temperatures, but that is when it is produced the most rapidly. So that's what we're looking for with this system. But onto the John Payne system. So we've been noticing some decent geothermal temps coming from this little tube way back here. So we've got a little drain tile way back over in here by our stove and by our water tank, and that is actually blowing air through from our greenhouse through the compost pile and then back into the greenhouse. So we're not transferring methane, CO2, and anything else that is in the compost that we didn't know about that's giving off different toxins or gases and stuff. So we're just pulling the heat off as opposed to pulling all of the gases and moisture and all of the extra stuff. We're just strictly pulling heat off. We were pretty successful with pulling heat off of this compost last winter with air, and we were even more successful with the water. The water really didn't freeze up for us at all throughout any point in the winter, but we noticed that our pipe did get a little cold because it was on the outside of the compost pile. We're gonna go show everything, and I wanna kind of break it all down and show everybody the moving parts or not so moving parts out there. So before I cleaned all of the compost up from last winter, I did break down a lot of it. I have one little like corner. It was a big old ring, so I guess I have a little piece of the pie left on the compost pile that is kind of active still. It was much more active yesterday. We saw higher temps yesterday. We'll go check that out also. I just wanted to break all this down and talk about this before I actually go out in the hot sun. It is going to be about 90, 95 today. So that heat makes it pretty unbearable. So we're out here as early in the morning as we could get out here, and we're going to go out and check out all of the compost. But we were checking out the geothermal temperatures, and it's basically like a poor man's geothermal. So we were under about 3 foot of compost or wood chips that were broken down pretty heavily. So coming into this summer, we noticed some simple geothermal observations from that tube there, and it was coming in between 55 and 60 degrees, and that was only underneath 2 to 3 foot of compost, like I said. So we're able to pull some simple geothermal from that. It's not like our geothermal, we've got our tube over here going down and then blowing up to the other end of the greenhouse, split into two. So we're able to put that geothermal air to both sides of the greenhouse, dead center in the middle of the greenhouse. So we were able to have good success with that last year, and we put about 50-55 degrees all winter long into a few tunnels that were very successful. We were able to sprout in the middle of a winter, survive polar vortexes with these systems. So they were successful, and they were super simple, and they don't require a whole lot of engineering to figure out or complete the actual project. And it's pretty inexpensive because we're saving all of this money by reusing all of the same systems, free energy from the sun for our electricity, and free fuel from wood chips. So on certain days, I'm noticing 20 to 40 degree difference in temperatures coming in that geothermal tube. The geothermal tube now, it was a heating tube this winter, so we kind of reversed it and just left it just like our small greenhouse with the water. Building upon those observations, we can use those next spring and build upon those and kind of use that to our advantage to cool some things down like water. So we have our large water tank over here, and you might notice that we have some copper coil over there on the end, and we're making our own DIY humidifier. So this tank is very cool overnight. So it is about 1.5 feet into the ground, so it's halfway sunken. So we are pulling that water up and putting it into the bed, and it is flushing back down as an aquaponics bed or a bell siphon system, and we're rooting stuff and keeping things alive. But we're also able to pull that cool water from the very bottom and flush it up, and then it is traveling through all that copper and traveling back down while still operating our aquaponics system. So let's jump over there and check that out. So taking our little side tour on our way out to the compost heating system and down to our aquaponics bins. We've been filling this rain barrel up. This is probably the third time we've had to fill this up this summer. So we've been kind of just dripping it. We'll just come by, turn it on for 5-10 minutes, and then just leave it. And it has been super productive for these tomatoes, and these ones I have to water myself. We are definitely going to build upon that for next spring, so be on the lookout for an update on all of our drip lines coming inside the greenhouse. But so taking advantage of our super humid climate and the super humid days we've had, like I said, it's going to be like 95 today. We've got this copper coil, and we've got little sweat beads that are dripping down on it. You can see them drip off as I shake it there. You got it dripping everywhere. That's pretty darn cool because I can take that clean water that is pulled right from the air. This is basically a DIY dehumidifier. So we're able to pull this water that is already evaporating from our tank, and it basically just collects here and drops right back in. So up until midday, we are recycling water and filling our tank basically for free off of solar power from the sun. This is our little solar system. This was just our little aquaponics filler, but I just used this plug, and you can see down there that water is just flowing. So I thought it was very cool to build upon this little system I had, and I'm going to really build upon this. I'm going to make myself a nice little geothermal dehumidifier, so stay tuned for that. We're going to try and build that for the springtime also. So there's a lot of updates in this video and a lot of things coming because we've been down for quite a while without a camera, so we're getting a lot of stuff out there, and hopefully everybody's enjoying all of the content we're sharing. So this was a very cool one, getting all of that free water, filling our bin, filling our tray back up, just off of free energy from the sun. So let's go out and check out our compost pile, what the main focus of this video was about. Coming outside the greenhouse, we've got our stack for our stove there. I don't want to trip and fall. We've got lots and lots of weeds coming up. The entire compost pile is pretty well dissipated here, and we're able to access all of the little parts that we had set up and put in place before we actually dumped all of these wood chips and inoculated them. So we've got all of our drain tile here, and this drain tile, we did 2 little loops of it, and we were able to achieve about 90 degrees for about 3 months, and then after that it went down to about 70 and then lowered to about 60 for the rest of the winter, which I will take that all winter long. That's just as good as geothermal, if not better. So we're able to achieve that, and then we were able to pull at least 80-degree water the entire winter. So like 7 months or something like that, we had 80-degree water potential coming in and out until we actually started to break this pile down and expose most of this. We tried not to put any copper at the top of this pole, so we really didn't have to worry about the cold seeping in from the top. But one thing we didn't account for was cooling at the bottom. We were losing some temperature overall throughout the winter, basically the entire time from the start of it to the ground. So I had these trailing the ground, and I didn't insulate them the best. And if you look back, I insulated the piping coming in as far as I could, sticking my arms up under the compost pile, but it still had maybe 3 feet inside the pile where it was touching ground, and it was only going to be about 50 degrees like geothermal. So jumping up here, we actually have an almost active pile there. It's reading about 81 degrees, and that was showing about 90 degrees yesterday, almost 100. Hopefully I don't get any creepy crawlies on me sitting here. So we were able to achieve a ton of free heating, and we could have gotten a lot of free methane because those temperatures I'm talking about are methane creating temperatures. So we would be able to create methane while still producing the heat and harvesting the heat and burning the methane from the pile also. So I'd like to put a cap on the top, and that's going to be a whole experiment in itself after we build our next Jean Pain system. So let's jump down here and actually check out. Whoa, a little unsteady in the wood chips here. They're breaking down on me. So this basically looks like mud. I can squeeze it and it stays together. That is absolutely awesome. This looks like a bio miller. You can see how dark and black some of this is. We've got literal dirt formed. This is the best compost. This is pure food for our blueberries, our blackberries, all of our aronias, everything. Every fruit tree, every berry bush, every bed that is perennial is getting all of this. And you can see we've already distributed a lot of this pile, but I still have a piece of the pie left. This nice little corner with about, I don't know, maybe 4 cubic yards, about a ton of matter maybe. But we did have some breakdown. We started with maybe 4 tons of matter, maybe 4 tons I bet, and we probably lost maybe a ton. I would say we lost about a quarter of what we had for material to just basically breaking down and shrinking. So it's a very interesting process to see all of this, and I wanted to share all of this with everybody before I got all of this distributed, broken down, and I reset up my new pole, because I'm not going to do the same thing. When I build this next John Payne compost heater, I'm going to adjust my copper and my air tubes a little bit differently, so I have better ideas and better plans. This was a great experiment last winter, and I'd like to thank everybody for checking this out, and if anybody has any questions, definitely drop in the comments below, and I want to thank all you guys for checking this video out.